Welcome to the Executive Podcast, the show where we talk to the individuals behind the scenes of successful businesses, who provide us with valuable insights, tips, and their unique perspectives, which have fueled both their successes and challenges. In this episode, Ewan Calder, co-founder of Northern Recycling Solutions, shares how he and his sister started the company 15 years ago, focusing on confidential waste bins and expanding to meet various recycling needs. They grew from a one-man operation to a business with nearly 40 employees, serving major sectors like healthcare and manufacturing. Ewan emphasises customer demand, a commitment to zero carbon, and recent investments in a £1 million facility. He reflects on the rewards and challenges of running a family business and the importance of strong leadership. With an emphasis on credibility, Northern Recycling Solutions remains committed to delivering on their promises and staying competitive in a dynamic industry. So Ewan, welcome to the Executive Podcast.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, great to have you here.
Thanks so much.
So I just kind of want to start by taking you back a little bit before we go into what you do now. What was your first job and what were you like as an employee?
Well, I haven't been asked that before. The first job was a butcher's assistant in the Kingswell shop area. There used to be a butcher's, McGilvery's Butchers, and I had to clean and prepare some of the dog food. He used to sell dog food. It wasn't, I used to come home stinking. It wasn't a great job. I got 45 pence an hour.
Wow.
So that was my first job. A few hours each week, saving up for a fishing rod.
And what were you like as an employee then?
Oh, I don't know. That's a long time ago. Hard working. I was I actually ended up being a wee bit disillusioned because after working for 2 weeks, he cut my wages from 45 pence an hour to 40 pence. Yes, it was a hard first business lesson.
That was the first one?
Yeah. And
now you have Northern Recycling Solutions. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is and what you do?
We're the leading waste management company in the Highlands. Myself and my sister started it roughly 15 years ago, and we've now got just short of 40 employees and some big contracts in the area looking after like the NHS and Diageo and a lot of the big builders like Morrisons and Robertsons and so on, trying to maximise their recycling and reduce their impact on the environment.
And what made you decide to go into that industry with your sister?
Well, we kind of did it and a step by step by just following. We were in another business and we kind of saw the opportunities and the customer demand. So we actually had a document storage business. So we still have that. It's called File Vault. We store people's archive records. And when they were finished with their records, they needed to be shredded. And at that time, nobody was recycling the paper when it was shredded. So we went to a recycler down south. I found somebody and he said, well, we need 4 times the volume that you're generating in paper before it's worthwhile recycling. So we went back out and we came across confidential waste bins. I was in another customer visit and there was none of them in the Highlands. So we went back to our customers that we're dealing with and said, I've got this great idea for confidential waste bins. Would you be interested? And Katie, my sister, went out and spread the word. And within a couple of years, we had 300 customers for that.
Wow.
And we were recycling that paper. And that was one of the key messages. And people asked us if we could recycle other things. And it just kept growing from there. So that was 15 years ago. So we had one man in a van, and Stuart is still with us today, still works with us. And we've now got 3 bin lorries, 5 skip lorries, a big factory to process it all.
That's incredible. Yeah. You just kind of saw a gap in the market and plugged it.
When we got into the recycling industry, it was still kind of, for want of a better word, blue collar, that was still kind of skips and we kind of brought a wee bit of the administration side. People were looking to improve their administration on it, understand what weights, the details of where their waste was going and how it was treated, and they needed data. They were doing their environmental ISOs, 14001, and they needed all this information, and that was our big kind of differentiator, and that's what kind of helped us build the customer base.
And has that just kind of expanded over time then? Because obviously now we've got, net zero goals. We've got all this information that businesses need to put out in terms of, okay, well, what are they using? What are they not using? Has that just kind of increased?
It does. We've got a kind of rueful smile at the moment, Katie and I, because we've for the last 10 years, the waste industry has been chasing zero waste to landfill, and we've achieved it for a lot of customers, but there was a certain cost to it because there wasn't enough volume only certain leading businesses were looking to do that. With our new building, we've achieved that for all our customers. So we're as good as, 99% plus zero waste to landfill for all the waste we get in. And now the new agenda is zero carbon. And it's related. There's benefits from zero waste to landfill to zero carbon, but that's our next journey. So we're starting to invest in that and put the systems in place to record carbon and improvements. And we're starting to get that demand from our customers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the leaders, there's always leaders in the market that are wanting to be ahead of the game. So they're coming to us and asking us to work on that with them. So
It must be quite exciting to be at the forefront of that.
Yeah, it is actually, Really enjoy it. And it's I like the variety and the interest. There's always a new challenge. You're not kind of, it's not all sorted. There's always something to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps you getting up in the morning.
It sounds it. There's always something new to look forward to.
Yeah.
And you said you had a business with your sister before, which you still have. What is it like having a family business and working with a sibling? How does that work?
It's gone really well, actually. We've had friends in the past that have joked with us that there's just no way they could work with their sister. So, but we've got our own responsibilities, and we both have dogs, so we walk the dogs twice a day together. So we're out of the office just for 20 minutes in the first thing in the morning and lunchtime, and talk about anything we need to. So we're always in touch,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got different strengths and weaknesses. So so we kind of divvy the work up, and we've had a couple of fallouts.
Yeah.
But and you think about it, we've worked 15 years. I could probably count them on my one hand. That there's been no major disasters, so it's worked really well. And my father, he helped build the building we're in. He was
Mm-hmm.
a builder, and we've now got my son Jamie. He's working in the yard as a trainee manager in the business. So it's worked good. It's good.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
I've asked other family businesses before, but how do you keep family life and work life separated, or do they mix? Do you have rules for that?
No, they probably do mix a wee bit, yeah. But we try not to, if Katie and her husband come for dinner around hours or something like that, we try not to talk about work, just to kind of keep the rest of them from being bored,
Mm-hmm.
But we just try not to talk about it when we're out of work. It naturally is a big part of your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I was looking, you've a big part of what you do, you've got company values,
Yes.
and that seems to be integral for your business. How did you come up with them? How did you decide what was important?
Katie and I had a long think about that and used Dr. Google and all that kind of stuff. But there were some core ones, and we had chat with some of our key members of the team as well and the staff. We'd met a management consultant, and he said, look, as you're growing, it's hard to make sure the message reaches all the staff and all the staff work with the same mindset that you do as you're a smaller team. So when you're 10 in your team, it's easier to make sure you see everybody every day
Mm-hmm.
and you're communicating and they're hearing how you handle things and all that kind of stuff. And he says, but as you progress, you really got to try and download your brain into some concepts of how you want people to understand what the business culture is,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, we kind of thought long and hard, and some of them were easy. Like the reason the business grew is we were very customer focused and really worked hard to keep that. Katie and I both feel very strongly about that. It's hard to explain it. Basically, you do what you've promised.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to, and so many people don't. It's kind of strange. If you make a mistake, fix it quickly. That kind of stuff. Even if we've messed up a quote and we've got the pricing wrong, still deliver it. That's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing. So it's just making sure the customer has a good experience, because we're looking for the long-term relationship, want them to keep coming back, spread the word, all that kind of stuff. Well, so that was one of the core ones. And then it was other things like based on experience. So I had a bad experience in a company I'd worked for early on in my career. Not quite bullying, just uncomfortable and just not
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And I've always thought I want everyone that works for us to enjoy coming to work. I don't want them to be worrying about if somebody's going to say something to them or be uncomfortable or whatever. So I think that's really important. You've got to. So one of our values is to respect each other and treat each other as you'd be respected. So it's a nice place to work. And we've actually had to let some people go in the past because it just wasn't their nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really important to us, that people enjoy working with us. Which why not? I mean, it's a big part of your life, isn't it?
It is, and it sounds like
Yeah.
people do, because you've got that longevity of, was it Stuart, did you say his
Yeah,
name was?
yeah.
Who's still with you?
Yeah.
So that must
So
be
we've
nice.
got Stuart and Michael, who's in the document storage side. They're both our longest serving employees. They've been kind of 15 years each Yeah, Michael works in the warehouse.
And how have you found that change over the years? You started with one man in a van and yourself and your sister, and now you say you've got 40 employees.
Yeah.
How have you managed to keep up with that? Or have you changed how your leadership style is? Or, how have you navigated that?
It's difficult sometimes, when you're, I appreciate for smaller businesses, each new employee you take on, you've really got to think hard about it. Is the extra business going to be there to help pay? And do you push yourself to the point where you're kind of really struggling before you take on that employee to backfill? Once you kind of get up to about 20, it becomes easier because the incremental isn't such a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
We got some help early on from, it was the same guy actually, and suggested we did our values. He was really this was about, 10 years ago. And he said, just draw a picture in your mind of how your business will look in 5 years from now, not today or next week or next month. How do you want it? It's quite an easier way to look at it. And we needed a management team, and these are big roles to take on, just like I said, if you're adding an extra person, and can you cope with the cost and so on. So if we could picture where we wanted to be in 5 years, then that really helped us say, right, well, what is the first step? So once you've got that picture, what's the first step? What's the next step? And we built the team. So we've got a great management team now in Northern Recycling and in File Vault, and they kind of manage a lot of the day-to-day aspects of the team and what needs done and so on. So that's how we've kind of progressed it.
You found people to that have been the right people for doing that.
Share the load.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that sounds really important, because I guess sometimes it can be hard, maybe if you're starting a business, to try and do everything yourself, and that become overwhelming.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that a thing, do you think, mistakes? Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah. You can't do everything yourself, and that's one of the biggest challenges in your mindset, is to start sharing the jobs, and because you're going to hold your own business back and yourself back, and exhaust yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of we're kind of down the road a wee bit, but I've been through that, and I've dealt with these challenges, So I feel for people that are on that same journey. But it helps if you paint your picture where you want to go, and the steps become clearer. And finding the right people is the next challenge. Then a guy I used to work with years ago, he says, once you found good people, make sure you keep them.
Yeah.
And that's really good advice.
And how do you do that? You've talked about your values that you have, but is there anything you do, like employee well-being, or anything you kind of do to retain those people? Because it's more than just a paycheck at the end of the day for people, isn't it?
It is like a small family,
Yeah.
We know all about them. We take time to get the news and find out how things are going, and try and help them if they're struggling, and just work closely and pay as best we can, because it's an important part of it. We just invest time with them. Yeah. So and we've been lucky. We've got a really good team with us at the moment. It's really makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, it sounds it. What have been your biggest milestone since you started the business?
I suppose a lot of it was around contracts, and then I suppose the building we're in at the moment. So we worked from the document storage warehouse, which is in Invergordon. When we got to a certain size, we had separate premises for Northern Recycling. So that's where we first set up the site and all this, and my father helped build that. So that was a milestone. And then another next milestone, we won the Diageo contract. So we've had that for about, 12 years from memory. But they wanted to get to zero waste to landfill, so they were one of the leaders. And that was a huge contract for us as a small company. It was almost doubled their turnover in one contract at the time. But the other thing was, they put their money where their mouth was. They wanted to invest in zero waste to landfill. We worked with them on that. So that kind of brought us along as well at the time. So that was great for us, because then we had a great story to pass on to other customers. And then we won the NHS Highland contract, and we got the highest ever score in a tender they fed back to us. So we're really delighted with that. That was a proud moment, because you're up against national waste companies and so on. So we do all the waste at Rigmore, not the yellow, but like sharps and hazardous waste, but we do all the non-hazardous waste. And then more recently, we've had to build our new building and construction waste sorting line. So that was £1 million investment last year. It was a kind of gulp moment when you start on that investment. But it was, again, we kind of went back to that meeting we'd had years ago, and Katie and I said, look, if in 3 years' time, we'd be delighted to have this facility, even though the pain of looking ahead this next 6 months, and would we be delighted to have that? Is that the way we want our business to look anyway? The answer was a firm yes. So we go for it, and it's up and running, and it's made a huge difference, and it's going really well. It was worth it. So these are kind of some of the highlights.
The key milestones. And how, we've talked about your Diageo contract and NHS and being up against national contractors. How do you make yours stand out? How did you manage to do it?
I suppose it's listening and really listening carefully to what the customer's wanting. You're not trying to get them to take what service you've got. You know, you're trying to form a service to deliver what they need. It sounds simple. I'm sure it sounds cliched as well. We also have this technique the way we go about tenders. We've developed this technique to answer tenders, and it's done us really well. I'm not going to crack my secrets.
No, that's what you say. Are you going to share
it? Happy to tell if anyone's interested in doing a tender. We've got a style that we go about doing tenders, and we think it really works. And again, it's a very simple thing, but it makes a big difference. People, we're feeding back what they've asked exactly, and it's worked for us. Not obviously with that high score, we've kept it going. So I think these are the things. And then when you work with them, you've got to keep your credibility and do what you say you're going to do. I think the word goes around, that you can be depended on. And it's strange, but it's not the case, across not just the waste industry, across many businesses. So we just work hard to make sure we do what we say we're going to do.
Because reputation matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess, we've talked about the wider operation of things, but what does a day in the life look like for you?
Well, I'm probably against all the business school advice. I'm out there with my steel toe cap boots and wandering around the yard, seeing how everyone's getting on. And we're actually building another building at the moment. So I had my high-vis on yesterday and my gloves, and we were placing big Lego blocks. I don't know if you ever seen big concrete blocks about the size of this table, and they look very like a piece of Lego. And you lift them, and the advantage of them is you can buy 100 of them and build a wall just like that. So we're in the middle of doing that just to improve another area of the yard.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm out with the guys and then back in the office and then putting on my good clothes to go and meet a customer. I like the variety. I really do enjoy it. I like meeting people, I like doing the deals, solving their waste problems. And then I like the practical side of being in the yard with the team and make sure it's all running smoothly.
Yeah, it's the variety.
Variety's the spice of life, as they say.
It is. What's the most challenging part for you overall?
I'm probably balancing my ambitions with what's practically, I'm driven and I like to keep pushing the business forward, but you've got to work it, you've got to deliver today and keep pace and, work around what the team's able to manage and so on. So that's a balance. I'd like to have the most amazing waste facility in the whole of Scotland. And we're working on it. We're getting close. But, it's just got to take time and, what money's available and all that kind of stuff, So.
And is your sister, does she keep you balanced and grounded in that, or is she similar?
Oh, no, we are quite different in that respect, yeah. So I need permission to spend money, which is a good thing.
I wish somebody would do that with me.
So you think it'd be the other way around because I'm the accountant, So we work well and we discuss the merits of what's going on. And there's differences, so we do kind of balance each other quite well.
Which is good, yeah. You need that. And I guess, we've talked about the most challenging things for you in the role, but what about running a business in the Highlands at the moment? Are there challenges? What are they?
I think there's a lot of advantages to running a business. Now, I do hear a lot of people talking about challenges, but there's a lot of advantages too. We're kind of insulated by the A9. So, in terms of potentially other competitors or whatever, you've kind of got that wee bit of, I call it insulation in terms of, so you've got opportunity to do well and invest. But, and people talk about like delivery charges. Now, we don't really suffer that. Probably our biggest challenge is the staffing. And I think I'm kind of seeing that as going to be an increasing challenge, especially with the Freeport is great I'm delighted for the area. But I do see it's going to create spin-off challenges for staff. We're starting to hear some of the salaries that they're offering and things like that. And, you'd understand that people would be attracted to that. So I'm trying to encourage businesses. Like, for example, there's a shortage of drivers, HGV drivers. And it costs approximately £1,500 plus your time to get your Class 2 driver license. But that could be a big cost to somebody on, £12 to £15 an hour. It's a big cost, a big thought for them to sit. And then you're not necessarily guaranteed to pass and so on. We've put 7 or 8 people through that process. over the years. And we've got somebody on board at the moment, we're doing the same. So they work in the warehouse for 2 or 3 months, but their main goal is to get through their HGV. But you've got to get a medical certificate, you've got to apply, you've got to, set the training and pass the test. So we're trying to tackle the shortage of drivers in one respect.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to encourage other HGV companies to do the same. Some of the big people that maybe employ 20 plus drivers, and saying, look, really, let's not complain there's a shortage of drivers, let's try and address it. We're doing our wee bit on one side of the business,
It sounds great that you kind of see a challenge, but you flip it on its head and you look more solutions focused than you would be, oh, this is awful,
Yeah. So 3 of our drivers that have stayed with us a long time. So Stuart, he started as a van driver. He's now one of the main lorry drivers. So we paid for him to go through his. And then John, who's been with us, not quite, maybe it was 12 plus years. I need to go and he'll probably pull me up. It could have been 13, it could have been 11, but he's been with us a long time. Again, he started as a van driver and we've put him through his class 2 as well. So I think people appreciate that investment. And also they're getting an increase in their salary of roughly £4,000 a year. So it's helping them in their life as well,
And it provides a bit of loyalty as well, doesn't it, to your business? If you've invested in them.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So we asked them to stay a couple of years once we've made that investment. After that, they're free to go if they so wish. Some of them choose to stay, luckily.
Yeah.
So I suppose you mentioned we'd like to find the solutions. Well, that's, yeah, absolutely.
It's your name.
You've got to, yes, well, that's right, recycling solutions. That's part of the interest and part of the fun and the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't just sit back. I don't like sitting back and saying, oh well, that was those circumstances, didn't suit us. So there's always a way to find a way through.
Yeah. And recycling is what you do. We all do it more now. But what's the one thing that people don't recycle that you wish they did? Or is there anything?
Well, I'm worried in the industry at the moment is batteries. There was another fire last week. And I was speaking to a guy involved in the site. He's still putting water on a site that we heard in the news about a month ago. So it's a battery recycling facility. But he's still spraying that site now. There's still heat. And that really shocked me because I've heard of battery fires, but I always thought, well, hopefully within a week you'll have managed to tidy up and start rebuilding or whatever and get on with it. But they can't even get at that site still, and that's a month later. So these vapes, disposable vapes, they've all got batteries in them. All your drills and your grinders, all this new, swappable batteries, they're all really quite dangerous fire sources, So that's a concern that we need to start addressing. I think we need the government to step in because in the last 2 years, there's been 6 major fires in Scotland in waste facilities, and it's all accounted to batteries. So we do need to do something because we're going to run out of facilities.
Yeah.
And also, it's big investment people are making. I would like to see something done about that, yeah.
And do you do that at your...
So we pick them out and we send them to a specialist. So really we're just separating them into an area well away from all our buildings.
Yeah.
They're kept in a store and then they're shipped down the road each month to a specialist company. People don't have the knowledge, they might end up putting a battery in a skip or something like that. And that's where the fire starts.
Right, okay. So just even the smallest battery, don't put it.
Follow the proper process. In the supermarkets, there's battery recycling points. Most businesses, in fact, all businesses should have a battery recycling facility. We provide that. We provide boxes, safe boxes. The key thing is to keep them separate from all other wastes.
Yeah, and vape shops provide them now too.
Yes, because once they start, they're really hard to put out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the big thing in the industry at the moment. It's a big concern for everyone.
It's the batteries.
On
a bit of a lighter topic, this is going to be my last question for you. If you could give 3 pieces of advice to somebody starting out their own business, what would it be?
Get experience if you can. I've advised people in the past, if you're interested, quite often get somebody who looks and says, I really fancy being involved in that business. Well, don't start a business on that idea. Try and find a job for, 6 months even, or just get experience. Make sure you've got the right finances behind you. Being an accountant, do a business plan. I love the numbers, and it's quite easy to just sit there and, even if it's on the back of an envelope, do some numbers. And then the other thing is I listen to a lot of business podcasts, and the single bit of advice that they give is if you're interested in it, just do it, just do it. Find a way, take that first step. And that's the biggest thing that people struggle to do is take that first step. You're in your comfort zone. It is a scary moment when we started the original business, there was a baby on the way. We were buying a house and started a business all in the same kind of 3-month period.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pressure, But made sure we got off to a good start because we had to, had to work hard to make sure the money was coming in. I really love business. There's so many good things about it. You meet so many people. There's a challenge every day. It's really rewarding. It's hard work as well, though. It's hard work. So I make sure I've got ready to give them 3, but my fourth one is make sure you take some time for yourself as well on the way. What's that one? Enjoy the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So there you go. There's 5.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to have you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Executive Podcast. You can sign up to our free newsletter at hnmedia.co.uk/executive magazine. We partner with stakeholders to keep you up to date with everything that is happening across all sectors within the North of Scotland economy.